It doesn't matter how much you've prepared, how detailed your slides are, or how many cue cards you've prepared. Stage fright is something that affects us all. The good news is there's a very easy way to overcome stage fright and deliver your speech confidently. And it's not something that's going to take you hours and hours of practice. It's not something you're going to have to memorize. It's something you'll be able to implement in less than 5 minutes. And let me tell you, this trick has worked for thousands of my most shy trainees. Hi, my name's Dave Mack, and I've been a public speaker and public speaking trainer for 16 years now. I've trained CEOs, executives, and managers from global organizations how to deliver confident and engaging speeches. Let's get straight into it. So, I understand stage fright. I've been there myself. There's very few people can stand in front of an audience and speak for the first time and not feel stage fright. You start to go all stiff, your hands get kind of cold and clammy, all the blood rushes to your head, you can feel the heat in your face. It's a pretty terrifying situation. And all the time, you're thinking to yourself, what happens if I say the wrong thing? What if I make a mistake? What are people going to think of me? What if they laugh at me? What if I do something stupid? And I do understand because, as I say, I was like that myself. But before we talk about the actual solution, what I want to do is relate public speaking to your average, everyday conversation you have with friends. Now, when we typically think about a speech or a presentation, what we think about is preparing lots of slides, writing out a script, memorizing it word for word, practicing in front of the mirror, in front of the dog, in front of the cat, in front of your grandma. And we're doing all this, and then we're going to write out some cue cards that will remind us of key points that we need to talk about. And we have done all this preparation, and then we stand on stage, and the first thing we do is freeze. And it doesn't matter how much preparation we've done, we're just looking out at all the faces, and we think, oh, I've forgotten what to say. What was that first sentence? What was the first line? I practiced that the most of everything. And everything just kind of drops out of your mind, and you start getting into that spiral of what if I make a mistake? And then those things, thinking I might make a mistake, makes you more prone to make the mistake. And this cycle just feeds on itself. What I actually like to do is think of public speaking as a conversation. Think of a regular conversation. Imagine you go into a regular conversation and you've written out a script in advance and you've memorized that script and you've got it down pat, you've memorized it word for word. What's going to happen when you're talking to the other person? They're going to look at you like you're strange because you're going to sound crazy because the way we write is not the way we talk. The way we write is a very formalized way of speaking. The way we talk is much more informal. And so if you go on a first date or you're just going up with a friend that you don't have a lot in common with or whatever, and you wrote out things to talk about, you memorized them, and you were actually talking about it from memory, you're going to sound weird. Now, that's an extreme example, but let's imagine you've seen some of these dating TV shows where someone will not know what to say on the first date, so they write cue cards for themselves or they write on their hand what the topics they can talk about, things like that. It's not natural. It feels really weird for the other person if you're constantly looking down to say, well, what am I going to say next? And, maybe talking a little bit robotically because of that, right? And so if we take that onto the stage or into the boardroom in front of people and you talk the same way, that's why people hate speeches and presentations. That's why it's so boring. So what we should be trying to do actually is have a more conversational tone in our speeches, right? And if you Think of the speech just as a conversation. You can relax. You don't have to be super formal. That takes a little bit of the pressure off. That's not going to fix the stage fright, but it takes a little bit of the pressure off. So it's easier to get up on the stage in the first place. Just think, I'm just having a conversation with these people. And when you think that way, your language is much more likely to come out naturally. But again, that's not going to cure your stage fright. That's just going to relax you a little bit. Here's the thing you need to do to get rid of that stage fright. Instead of going up to the stage, instead of standing in front of your audience and saying, "Good morning," don't start your speech this way. Because when you start with like a good morning or a good afternoon or something like that, the audience is thinking to themselves, I don't know this. I don't know this person very well at the moment. And are they expecting me to respond or should I not respond? And so you get this kind of awkward silence where the audience is like, should I respond? And you're waiting thinking, oh, maybe they want to respond. And it's really weird. And that makes it worse for you. So instead, what you do is you walk onto the stage, you walk in front of the audience, and you do what you would do in a regular conversation where you're not feeling so confident. In a regular conversation, what do you do if you kind of run out of things to talk about? You push to the other person. You ask the other person questions. You don't sit there thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? I need to think of something to say. What you do is you push to the other person. You say, well, tell me about this thing you were working on, or tell me about this particular thing you enjoy doing. You ask them questions and you give them the opportunity to speak. Do the same when you come out on stage. Push to the audience. Instead of your good mornings and your good afternoons, thank you for being here, my presentation is going to take 30 minutes. Instead of doing all that stuff, start off by pushing to the audience. That does a few things. It takes the pressure off you, because when you push to the audience with a question, what happens is the figurative spotlight goes away from you and goes onto the audience. So this buys you a little bit of time where you can start to feel a little bit more comfortable on stage. Additionally, this gives you a little bit of time to judge how the audience is going to react to you. And finally, if you ask the question in the correct way, you actually initiate this interaction with the audience that is going to benefit you, because it tells the audience, this is not one of these standard kind of crap talks that I have to go to every week. This is one where he's actually going to engage me in the discussion. He's actually going to make this a bit more interesting. And he's actually talking in a more of a conversational tone. So let's look at an example that we could use. Now, I'm going to give you two examples of the same opening, one that's not so good and one that's much better. And I'll explain why. So let's imagine you are at a health conference and you're speaking at this health conference, and maybe you're talking about doing water fasts, right? And the benefits of water fasting. So you could open your talk by saying, can you imagine what the first 24 hours of my 7-day water fast was like? Now, I would advise against opening a presentation with a question like this, because this is the kind of question that's vague, in that the audience will be thinking, is this rhetorical? Do I have to respond? And it becomes a little bit more like that, just saying good morning or good afternoon. So they're thinking, okay, it's just a rhetorical question. He doesn't want me to respond. But you will notice the audience kind of moving like as if they want to respond. And so there'll be, again, that uncomfortable silence. So instead of that, you just ask a short, direct question. And at the same time, you raise your hand. And raising your hand at the same time basically indicates more clearly to the audience, I want to interact with you. So the first thing you do when you walk in front of the room or you stand on the stage, before you've done any of your good mornings, good afternoons, welcome, I'm going to be talking for 30 minutes. Before you do any of that, you just say, who's done a water fast? And then you look around at the audience. Just look at their reactions. Some people will shout, yeah, I've done one. And because this is probably a topic they're interested in, you will get interaction from the audience. And you can just follow that up after people have been shouting things out. I've done a 48-hour water fast and that kind of thing. You can just say, wow, it looks like about half of you have already tried to do it. And then it's a much easier step into your talk. And now you're feeling more relaxed because now they're not an audience. Now they're just humans. They are other people that you would be talking to in a regular conversation. And to discover the 3 simple steps to remember your speech, check out this video next.